Hi everybody, here I am, it's Nikki Edgell. Hi, if you're watching live, hello, say hello. If you're watching the replay, a very warm welcome to you. Here we are on day 16, I believe, of my talks on how to really boost your confidence and your immune system during this time that we've been in lockdown and getting yourself a bit more confident to get out there in the world again now lockdown is easing. Today I'm going to talk to you about sugar and sugar cravings, how we can take charge of our blood sugar and get it in balance so we don't feel these swings that a lot of people tell me they feel. And sometimes, you know, if I don't get it right myself, you know, we can move in and out of that. And one of the things that's been a theme throughout these talks is how stress really affects our immune system, and how stress, the response to stress, really amplifies the need for energy, cellular energy. And cellular energy is made from glucose. Essentially, glucose coming into the cell through the Krebs cycle to make ATP, energy molecules. And so it goes together, that, you know, it makes sense that when we're under stress, the brain is going to give the signal to ask for more glucose, because much more energy is required to be made for the immune system and for the brain to cope with this whatever stress, wherever it's coming from. So with that in mind, I just want you to be a bit kind to yourself already, because we've all been under stress during these last few months in one shape or another. And so quite rightly, your brain is just performing as it is programmed to do, to tell you, please give me more glucose to cope with this stress response. So that's one thing, because I think we can be very hard on ourselves, can't we, and beat ourselves up for reaching into the cupboard for snacks to satisfy that blood sugar imbalance, that need, that craving. And quite often that craving is so strong, it's so strong, and it comes for various reasons to do with stress, but also it can be a stress from nutrient deficiency. Maybe we're not getting enough nutrients and the brain is feeling stressed because of that. Maybe it's because we are dehydrated. You know, just 2% drop in hydration will bring about a stress response. Maybe we're just bored, you know, I don't know what to do with myself, I'm bored. That's a stress. You know, are we not on our natural life's purpose? That can be a stress. And when our purpose is taken away from us, as for a lot of people in lockdown, that is a stress and can cause this need for more glucose. So one of the things I always say to people is, you know, before you reach into that cupboard, you know, as you're reaching into that cupboard, you know, maybe have a little voice, you know, little voice on your shoulder saying, you know, let's just try a couple of other things first. So the first thing I would recommend, rather than putting something sugary into your body, is to reach for a glass of water. It could just be dehydration. So try that first. Allow just 5 minutes just to let that, you know, come into get the message into the body. You might find that's enough to let that craving just disappear again. Or am I bored? Maybe, or am I tired? You know, am I anxious about something? Distraction can be a fantastic tool at these times. So if you can find a way to distract yourself just for 10 or 15 minutes, You know, we see it with children, don't we? You know, they're stressed because they've maybe just had a little scrape on their knee or something, and you just distract them with something and they've forgotten about it in 2 seconds flat. It's the same with ourselves. We can distract ourselves out of a sugar craving. So you could try that. And the third thing would be, you know, maybe just a little bit of movement is what's needed, because it could be that the stress that your body has produced, these stress molecules, adrenaline and cortisol, and you just need to move that out of the body. So a little bit of high intensity interval training exercise could be enough to allay that craving. And it's amazing, you know, I often do my exercise on an empty stomach. So first thing in the morning, whether it be, at the moment, that's my morning swims, but it could be that I go for a walk, and, you know, it might be slightly peckish before I go, but always when I come back, I've found that that hunger has just disappeared. And it's because I've moved my body, I've distracted myself, I've got rid of any stress molecules, and yeah, my body's really ready. And what that does, and we tackled this in the metabolic diseases talk, is that it starts to help you move from fat storing to fat burning. When we're under stress, we store energy. It's part of the mechanism. And when we take in too much glucose because of the stress, we become insulin resistant. So the insulin is what carries the glucose across through into the cell via the insulin receptors. And those receptors become closed, if you like, because you can't allow too much glucose into the cell. So what happens to the excess glucose is it gets stored, and mainly it gets stored in to protect the vital organs around your visceral cells, your liver, your pancreas, all the things that really don't want to have too much fat, actually. And we covered the liver yesterday. So those are the sorts of things that we want to avoid. We want to become more insulin sensitive, so that we've got appropriate amounts of glucose coming in, and that can go into the cell to produce the cellular energy. So one of the ways, the best ways, the quickest win, is to exercise on a empty stomach in a fasted state. So for me, the best way is first thing in the morning, because I've had this nice long fast in between my last meal of the day and my first meal of the next day. And that's usually the longest fast that we make, and it can be, 12 hours, 14, 16 hours, and that will really encourage this fat burning. So that's the reason why you feel energized after you've exercised and you don't have this hunger, and then you're in a really relaxed state to then eat a very hearty brunch, if it were maybe a brunch, and really the key thing to regaining your blood sugar balance is to make sure that you don't start the day with sugar. Now, it's historically the case that breakfast equals sugar, and people don't realize that. It's like, what do I have for breakfast? Oh, well, I have cereal, or I have toast with something. Ultimately, you're having sugar for breakfast. Any carbohydrate, highly processed carbohydrates, is going to be broken down into sugar in the body. So you're starting this swing, so you're putting in sugar, but sugar is burnt very quickly compared to proteins and fats, good fats. So then you get this drop, and you get this, and the brain says, oh no, I need some more, and then you get more in, and then you get this. So it's like this huge wave, and most people will know what that feels like. It really feels all horrible when you get the drop. You get, your energy drops, you feel absolutely awful, sluggish, brain fog, lots of different things. You might get headaches, you might feel nauseous, You might feel really irritable. And again, that relates to what I was saying yesterday. The liver is being affected in this blood sugar imbalance. So they're very much interconnected. So the key to getting blood sugar in more balance is to avoid sugar first thing in the morning and put the good oils and the good protein in at the start of the day. And to keep your insulin levels low on any meal, you start with a couple of mouthfuls of the protein element of your plate. So that will avoid the insulin spiking. Okay, so you can then obviously have other carbohydrates on the plate, but as long as they're not the first thing that you eat, you're going to maintain that drip of release of energy. Good fats are the very important thing to put with any carbohydrates. So that's why I always say, if you're going to have a baked potato, make sure you do have good fats on it, whether it be butter or coconut oil or whatever fats that you use. Some good quality oils will slow the release in the body of that carbohydrate of the potato. Same with if you're making a porridge, put a spoon of coconut oil or a spoon of butter in, and again it just slows down that release. Put in some protein with it as well to make sure it's protein rich, and again you're slowing down that spike of the blood sugar. So maybe some almond butter or something like that in with your porridge. Same with smoothies, you put a spoon of coconut oil, make sure it's protein rich as well as any sugars. And again, most people might think of a smoothie as having lots of fruit in it. Fruit is one of those things that we need to have in moderation. Maybe limit it to an apple or some berries or something like that in any shape or form, whether it be into some natural yogurt. Could make a nice natural yogurts are terribly filled, fruity yogurts are filled with sugar. So you could make your own fruit yogurt, but with whole fruit, fresh fruit, and natural yogurt. It doesn't need the sweetener as well. And if you're going to be having fruit, like I say, just not too much, maybe just, and make it sure as with some sort of protein as well and some sort of oil. It does have this effect, like I was saying yesterday, on the liver. Too much high fructose is actually quite inflammatory. And when we're talking about sugar, and alternative sugars, we're talking about sort of highly refined sugars, things that are added into, so if things are added into processed foods like cakes and biscuits and other snacky type things, usually have some form of sugar, some sort of maybe high fructose sugar or some sort of glucose syrup or something very, very highly processed. That's what we're talking about avoiding. So a little bit of a treat once in a while is absolutely fine. And if you're going to have it, just absolutely allow yourself to enjoy every mouthful. The love that someone's put into making, I don't know, might be celebratory cake, or you're going to have the cake with some friends or loved ones, or even just going for a cup of tea and a biscuit with a friend or a loved one is going to have a different effect of how it's received in the body. Two, if we're going secretly to the biscuit tin because we're stressed or we're bored or we're dehydrated, then you're actually going to be having much more of a stress response in the body, much more of a glucose spike. Does that make sense? So that, it's not always what we're eating, it's in what environment, how we're feeling, if we're feeling joyful and relaxed, or if we're feeling stressed and anxious, it will have a different effect. So oils slow down the release of sugar. You know, as a naturopath, the way we look at health is that the terrain is so much more important than the beast. So if we make the terrain less friendly to any pathogen, to any bacteria, to any virus, then it reduces the risk and also the severity of that illness should we have it. So the best defense is always to boost the immune system. And this is why I'm doing these talks, to give you some knowledge to empower you to do that. And really sugar, refined sugar, has this really depleting effect on the immune system. So it is a really key factor to get a hold of. And they reckon that you know, refined sugar will reduce your natural killer cells, which are those cells in your immune system that go after pathogens, by 70%. So it really does have a very negative effect. So what about some recipes? What can we do? You know, because I think we need to have nice things in our diet. And if we do have a craving, then let's reach for something that's going to be nourishing. One of my favorites is avocado chocolate mousse. You can tell I absolutely love food. Food should be delicious. You know, there's absolutely no reason why I can't see who it is. I'm sorry, there is somebody that's making a comment, but I'll have a look when I get onto Facebook after this. But I've just seen the question. I will answer it in a minute. So yes, so I think I will write some recipes for you in the comments, but avocado mousse, you know, with avocado, fresh avocado, coconut milk, coconut oil, a little bit of cacao powder, maple syrup, I think is quite a good sweetener, not too sugary, and you don't need too much of it, a little pinch of salt. Whiz that all up together. Yum, yum, absolutely yum. And highly protein rich, really good oils, sustaining and delicious, and you feel like you're having a real treat. That overnight chia seeds in a mousse can be really delicious as well. Again, you're getting this lovely protein, oils, fiber, all the nutrients. Again, you could put some chia seeds, some almond milk, and with some cacao powder, again, a little bit of maple syrup. And you leave it overnight and it sets in this lovely mousse, and it's really delicious as well. So a couple of like sort of nice sweet things. I've mentioned putting natural fruit into yogurt. At the moment, we've got lovely berries. I mean, every day I'm so fortunate I grew some raspberry canes over the last few years, and they're just prolific, and I literally got 2 wonderful big bowls in from the garden yesterday, and you know, I'll have that all summer. So if you've got a little space, I do recommend it. It doesn't take many years for them to start, because they spread themselves. If you can grow your own, what wonderful way to get your own sweet things from the garden, lovely berries. And seasonal fruits, you know, do stick with those. So I'm just going to answer, somebody's asked, can children tolerate more fruit in the morning? Well, we can all tolerate more fruit in the morning, as opposed to the afternoon. We don't want to have so many fruits later on in the day. So if you are going to have a piece of fruit, then I would have it in the morning, but definitely have it alongside or with protein and good oils, so that it's not going to spike your sugars. And again, remember with children that you don't want to be giving them like a whole, like the adult equivalent. I've seen myself when my children were small, I didn't think it through really. They're small. So, you know, give them just a couple of slices of an apple, or just a small handful of berries. We tend to think, oh, I give them a whole apple. Well, that's a huge amount for a little kid, because if you imagine you're only going to really want to eat one yourself as an adult. So, you know, proportional less for children. And again, whole fruit, natural fresh fruit is much more preferable to any kind of juice where it's concentrated. So I hope that's answered your question. So protein bars could be another option. Again, they've made them with fruits and nuts usually, and various flavorings. I wouldn't encourage you to have too many of those, but some people really do need to have a sort of comfort blanket in their bag if they're out for a long time and they know that they're not going to get to somewhere to have a decent snack or a meal anytime soon. So that can be a good option. But also I would encourage you to take out your water bottle with you, so that go to that first, like I was saying, with the hydration possibly being an issue and making people reach for snacks. The other things that you can use are things like cinnamon, fantastic blood sugar balancer. So add cinnamon into any of these things will really help to modulate your blood sugar balance. And also licorice root is great. So herbal teas can be a useful go-to. With a lot of herbal teas have the licorice root in. Hibiscus is a good one. Cinnamon, anything kind of those chai type ones, really fantastic for balancing and very warming as well. So I think that's what I wanted to say today. I hope that's been interesting and useful to you. The main thing really though is, although I say do allow yourself the odd snack, don't make it habitual. Yeah, and if you are having this habitual need because you just feel so awful in between meals, then you can also always consult with me to help you, or another practitioner to help you get on top of that, or just try out some of these top tips that I've shared with you. All right, have a great day, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.